dan sudah mulai bisa untuk acaranya.
Oke, we're gonna start. Mas Greg,
Oke, kita
tolong
start.
mulai dimasukkan, YouTube mulai, and link YouTube-nya tolong di-share.
Ya.
Oke, please share via chat, nanti semuanya bisa copy.
Oke.
Oke, thank you Mas Greg.
Thank you. Ya,
And
kita
then
mulai.
16.55, 56, Mbak Elvira mulai ya Mbak.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oke.
The University of Pancasila is one of Jakarta's top private universities, offering educational programs which emphasize character building based on the Pancasila as the fundamental philosophy of Indonesia. Strategically located both in Central and South Jakarta, the University of Pancasila is an environmentally friendly campus with numerous open spaces where students from different backgrounds and cultures can collaborate and create solutions for a range of global issues. The Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Pancasila is one of the oldest faculties in Indonesia. It has a long-standing reputation in academics, research, and community services. The Faculty of Pharmacy actively collaborates with all aspects of the university community on both a national and international level in order to develop and foster international collaboration.
A very good afternoon, everyone. We are going to start at 5 p.m. sharp Indonesia time. Therefore, while waiting, we are going to show you a video profile of the collaborating institution of today's event.
The University of Pancasila is one of Jakarta's top private universities, offering educational programs which emphasize character building based on the Pancasila as the fundamental philosophy of Indonesia. Strategically located both in Central and South Jakarta, the University of Pancasila is an environmentally friendly campus with numerous open spaces where students from different backgrounds and cultures can collaborate and create solutions for a range of global issues. The Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Pancasila is one of the oldest faculties in Indonesia. It has a long-standing reputation in academics, research, and community services. The Faculty of Pharmacy actively collaborates with all aspects of the university community on both a national and international level in order to develop and foster international collaboration.
Thank you, technical team, for playing the video. I would like to confirm with the organizing committee whether all our guests, VIP guests, are here already. So we may start our program. Dr. Yusi, is everyone here? Is everyone here already?
I think we are waiting for Prof. Weber, uh, our speaker from Imperials, Roland Ball. So we are still waiting.
All right.
Yeah.
So, dear guests, we are going to wait a few minutes. It's 3 minutes to 5 p.m. in Indonesia. So our technical team will be playing another video. Would you please be patient as we are waiting for another VIP guest from Imperial College London. Thank you.
Kepada Bapak Ibu tamu undangan, saya ucapkan terima kasih sudah hadir. Saya melihat di sini ada dari Ibu Mukti dari Badan POM, kemudian ada dari Bappenas, kemudian Ibu Luki sebagai senior advisor kami, kemudian ada Pak Nurul Falah, bukan ya, kemudian kita masih mengundang kemarin KSP juga, kantor staf presiden confirm untuk hadir. Kita masih menunggu beberapa menit kembali. Dan juga Bapak Ibu yang dari Universitas Pancasila, terima kasih atas kehadirannya sambil menunggu. So, Ibu Elizabeth here.
Kalau boleh juga minta maaf sebelumnya karena ada beberapa tamu dari luar negeri, terutama dari Inggris dan Belanda yang akan ikut kita hari ini. Jadi minta izin sebelumnya, semua acaranya nanti akan pakai bahasa Inggris, tetapi bukan karena kita tidak menghormati yang mengutamakan bahasa Indonesia. Nanti dalam penelitiannya ya bahasa Indonesia tentu saja menjadi sesuatu yang ya, bisa umum harian kita. Terima kasih ya.
Ya. Jadi Ibu Elis ini sangat fasih berbahasa Indonesia karena dulu sempat 6 tahun di Indonesia, dan kalau Bapak Ibu saya lupa, harusnya saya screen share ya di sini. Bapak Ibu pergi ke Periplus bisa melihat di situ karangan buku Ibu Elis yang judulnya Indonesia ETC. Kalau baca buku itu Ibu Elis itu lebih Indonesia dari kita. Dia tahu lebih banyak tentang banyak pulau di Indonesia, banyak provinsi di Indonesia, termasuk ke budaya dibanding dengan kita. Jadi sangat terkesan. So we have Martin here. So welcome, Martin. Thank you for coming. So we still use Indonesian language, but we will start shortly. But we still waiting for Prof. Weber and Prof. Holland before starting. Oh, Prof. Roland already come. Yeah, here.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning and good afternoon, Jakarta time.
Good morning.
Morning. Katarina, we are waiting for the Prof. Weber.
Yes. Apologies. He has probably another meeting beforehand. Let's give it a few more minutes, and then possibly we may want to start and he will come on while we start the program.
Okay. Yes, definitely.
agak ironisnya biasanya ya orang Inggris bernama tepat waktu, orang Indonesia kadang-kadang agak karetan katanya. Tetapi ternyata yang agak karetan di sini memang Prof. Weber dari Inggris. So,
Selamat sore. Very good afternoon, Elizabeth.
Hello, Bu. Selamat
Asti.
sore.
Asti coming. Thank you so much for coming, Bu Asti from
Sorry,
Bandar.
I'm on. Mohon maaf, saya perjalanan ke bandara jadi tidak pakai video ya.
Prof,
Terima
excuse
kasih
me, everyone.
banyak, Bu
Prof.
Asti
Jonathan
sangat
is here.
sibuk dengan kewaspadaan vaksin ya, Bu.
Yes.
This is a very exciting moment. So Ibu Asti from the Indonesian regulator BPOM is on her way to
airport
to check
to
the airport to check the rollout of the vaccine.
This afternoon already we conduct that program, that activity to check the vaccine in the region, in the district.
Very exciting.
Condition of vaccine. So if you don't mind, I close my video because
Yes,
Silakan,
okay,
Bu
no
Asti,
problem.
terima kasih.
So from our side, from Pancasila University, except Pak Rector because he has another responsibility. So here our vice rectors complete attend this meeting. There are vice rector one on the academic of WIDI, and also Ibu Novianti for the finance. There are also for students affairs Bapak Joko and Bapak Samsurijal for cooperations and relationship national and international. We also have Bapak Joko, Profesor Edi Pratomo. He is duta besar and
Ambassador.
Director of International Office from University of Pancasila. So we also have a dean here and vice deans complete because this is our very exciting moment for us in Pancasila University. For the first time, we have opportunity to get funding from international and have a collaboration with a very well-known university like Imperial College and also Erasmus. But with Erasmus, we have start almost 2 years with Martin and Prof. Volan. Thank you for the collaboration, and it's very important for us. And then we are happy to extend for this activity and will be extend to next 3 years.
I think while we wait for Prof. Weber, maybe we can start because so many guests are with us already. Vera, maybe we can turn things over to you and get started on the program proper.
All right. I see Prof. Jonathan Weber is already here. He's been here a few minutes.
Excellent. Sorry.
All right. We are going to start. Once again, warm greetings to everyone from Indonesia. I am Elvira Stefani, and on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to gladly welcome each and every one of you to the systematic tracking of at-risk medicines or STARmeds Research Coalition launch event, organized by Universitas Pancasila in collaboration with Imperial College London and Erasmus University of Rotterdam. First of all, we would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor, Honorable Professor Jonathan Weber, the Dean of Imperial College London Faculty of Medicine, and Dr. Katharina Hawk from Imperial College London, Professor Roland Bal from Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management, Board of Management of Universitas Pancasila, Dean and Associates of Faculty of Pharmacy, Principal researchers of this project from Universitas Pancasila, Dr. Yusi Anggriani and Professor Elizabeth Pisani, representatives, and stakeholders, and ladies and gentlemen. I believe that all of us are so excited to participate in today's event, both on Zoom cloud meetings, and we believe that there are viewers on YouTube. This virtual launch event today is an evidence that despite all the COVID-19 maladies, this pandemic disruption has driven educational institutions like Universitas Pancasila, Imperial College London, and Erasmus University of Rotterdam to change our perspectives and practices, and has brought awareness to new possibilities in reviving our education system, especially related to academic research. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are going to start our program today. And the first session will be the opening remarks. And the first remarks will be delivered by Professor Sri Widyastuti, the Vice Rector for the Academic Affairs of Universitas Pancasila, representing our Rector, who is not able to be here with us today due to another official assignment that cannot be delegated. Professor C. Widyastuti, if you are ready, you may begin to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, peace be with you. Honorable Professor Jonathan Weber, Dean of Faculty of Medicine of Imperial College London, Dr. Katerina Hack from Imperial College London, Professor Ronald Ball from Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management, Board of Management of Universitas Pancasila, Dean and Associate of Faculty of Pharmacy, and other deans, as well as Head of International Office. Principal researcher of this project from Universitas Pancasila, Dr. Yusi Anggriani and Professor Elizabeth Pisani, representative of stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. It is great honor for me to be here in the meeting with you all at the official launching ceremony of systematic tracking of at-risk medicines STARmeds research collaboration. At the signing of Memorandum of Understanding MOU on educational cooperation between Universitas Pancasila and Imperial College London. I am the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, representing the Rector of Universitas Pancasila to deliver the opening remarks. I am here with other Vice Rector and Dean within Universitas Pancasila and Vice Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy and the Head of International Office are also attending the events. We also invited other stakeholders from Drug Regulatory Agency, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education of Indonesia in this meeting. Indonesia has worked hard and successfully increased the public access to affordable health services through its National Health Insurance Scheme, we call JKN, Jaminan Kesehatan Nasional. As academic researchers at Universitas Pancasila, we aim to work with the Indonesian government, industry, and civil society to understand and measure the problem of the JKN improvements. We hope to encourage all stakeholders, including the public, to take effective action. We have got research funding from UK government and form a partnership with Imperial College London, a leading institution in health economic expertise, and also Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management at Erasmus University of Rotterdam to carry out this work. Through this MOU, we will work together towards our common goals to support the national effort to ensure that Indonesians, particularly the people who rely on the social health insurance, and the online drug markets have consistent access to quality medicines. In addition, we also aim to promote institutionalization of academic policy partnership to support the ongoing production and use of medicine policy research in Indonesia. Each party will pursue significant activities. At this moment of official launch of MOU, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone whose dedication and efforts have contributed to finalization of this MOU. The realization of this MOU has been done due to their insights, goodwill, and friendships. Finally, I would like to say that I'm confident with our efforts and commitment, we will be able to achieve more and to be able to continue to develop even stronger relationships and friendships between Universitas Pancasila, Imperial College London, and Erasmus School of Health, Policy and Management. We do hope that the outcome of this collaboration will provide benefits not only for Indonesia, but also for other countries. I would like to take this opportunity to assure you that Universitas Pancasila will do our best to realize this MOU successfully. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Sri Widyastuti, for the welcoming remarks. Next, I would like to invite Professor Jonathan Weber, the Dean of Medicine Faculty from Imperial College London.
Thank you very much, Vice Rector Widyastuti and colleagues from Universitas Pancasila and Erasmus University in Rotterdam. Thank you for inviting me. It's extraordinarily exciting as Dean of Imperial College Faculty of Medicine to be beginning a collaboration, our first ever collaboration with any academic organization in Indonesia. And so I'm particularly pleased to see this one. So STARS, or the Systematic Tracking of At-Risk Medicines, STARmeds, is something of enormous interest. I think that the critical challenges of the management of medicines in many lower and middle-income countries is becoming increasingly important. And one thinks of the need to protect the population and ensure medicines, the critical medicines, are made available through universal health coverage, are both safe and effective. I cannot think of a more important project now going forward. So I'm particularly pleased that Imperial's working in partnership with Dr. Angriani, who chairs the Center of Pharmaceutical Policy at Universitas Pancasila, as well as spearheads a Center of Excellence looking into medicine policy research. I understand she regularly advises on pharmaceutical policy to the Ministry of Health in Indonesia and also UNDP, the World Health Organization, and other global organizations. This project is also a partnership with Elizabeth Pisani, a name I recognize well from my previous life in HIV research, who's an expert in analyzing the challenges of substandard and falsified medicines in lower and middle-income countries, and is a convener of the MedsWatch group. I'm conscious that this issue of the substandard and medicine falsification is a growing problem, and hence the timeliness of the STARsmed collaboration. Our School of Public Health at Imperial College holds a really excellent reputation in the modeling and also health economics expertise, particularly as applied to infectious diseases, but increasingly to other global problems. The group has always had a substantial reach into low and middle income countries and a real track record at informing national and indeed global health policy in infectious diseases, non-communicable diseases, and in the adoption of health technology. Under the leadership of Katharina Hauk, who I'm really delighted to be supporting in this application, who is a reader in health economics in the School of Public Health, and who specialized in the economic evaluation of complex health interventions. So I think that the team which will be part of STARmeds will be accessing really the entire capability of the School of Public Health in epidemiology and monitoring and modeling. So the aim of the project is to help countries understand and measure the problem of falsified standard medicines so that they can plan effective action and track changes over time. I really think that's going to be hard to do because the market in medicines is so large and so complex. But perhaps that's why this particular collaboration, this ambitious collaboration, is just so important at this moment. And I would have said it's really going to develop vital information back to WHO and to other global health organizations about how to assess and measure and monitor this area of falsified medicines so that effective interventions can be undertaken at scale. So I anticipate really exciting outcomes from this over the period of the program. I congratulate all the partners in pulling this off, and I wait with great anticipation and excitement the final outcomes of this program. And in particular, I'm excited about the opportunities of working with colleagues in Indonesia. So Katerina, thank you for inviting me, and Vice Rector, thank you for welcoming us to work with your institution, Universitas Pancasila, Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Professor Jonathan Weber, for the very warm opening remarks. Lastly, may we call on Professor Roland Ball from Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management to give us his opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you also for your kind opening words, Vice Chancellor. I wanted to share a presentation that I prepared, so I'm going to do that now. To give you some sort of background to both our collaborations and to the group that we're working from. Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management has been active for the last almost 30 years now, 40 years, I should say, as one of the sort of most prominent interdisciplinary groups within Europe, and I think now after Brexit, we're the biggest in the European Union, doing research on all kinds of health policy and management questions. It's a relatively mid-sized institute with 160 staff and 1,100 students, and aiming to contribute actually to an efficient, affordable, and sustainable healthcare systems around the world. My group that I'm heading is the Healthcare Governance Group, which, and you see here the professors, which mainly has been working through a very strong network in healthcare and healthcare administration. So we've set up academic partnerships in the Netherlands with many of the leading regulatory bodies, like the Healthcare Inspectorate and Healthcare Institute in the Netherlands, which sets the insurance package. We also have some of the most prominent health policymakers within the group. So our networks within healthcare are very strong, which sort of allows us to do a lot of research that is very practically oriented towards the questions that are leading in healthcare policy and administration. We've divided our research into four themes, which is about regulating care, looking at the role of policymakers and supervisory bodies, the ways in which care is valued. So looking at how do we actually measure healthcare, and to what consequences do we do so. In questions about the replacing of care and the structural changes that healthcare organizations are going through, both in terms of centralization and decentralization processes, but also in terms of who's responsible for what in terms of task distribution. And the last, and not the least, is our program in global healthcare, in which we mainly focus on health in low and income countries. Within that theme, we've focused on three research lines. One is medicine quality and procurement, in which the STARmeds project is most prominent in right now. The others are achieving universal health coverage, which of course is related. And the third is the improving research uptake, which is also related to the STARmeds projects, in the sense that one of our goals within the STARmeds projects is to look not only what kind of knowledge can we develop, but also how does that relate to actual decision-making processes within Indonesia. Because in the end, that's of course what matters, not only the science that we produce, but also can it be used, will it be used, under what conditions can it be used, and how will it affect medicine's policy within Indonesia and hopefully also beyond. We do so through our work within several projects and collaborations, and our collaboration with Pancasila University is a very prominent one in that. This is work that's also been coordinated by Maarten Kok. We've been working in many countries on medicine quality, and one of the things that that you probably are aware of, and that is very central to the kind of research that we're doing, is that pharmaceutical markets do not function well. There is a lot of issues that are related to the ways in which pharmaceutical markets work, and especially the whole subject of falsified and substandard meds deserves a greater attention. And we've been working on this issue since 2015, mainly starting in Congo, Uganda, so some of the African countries, and Haiti. Expanding that through a project also with Professor Pisani, funded by the university in Rotterdam, Erasmus University, and the Wellcome Trust, looking at both Indonesia, Romania, and Turkey, and focusing mainly not so much on how can we assess the quality of medicine, but more how can we look at the conditions and the mechanisms under which falsified and substandard meds can enter markets, and focusing mostly on the procurement and processes and regulation, which has led to the development of a market risk-based flagging tool to establish the link between those pharmaceutical policies, pricing, and medicine quality. And this has been very much also the basis for the STARmeds project, which looks at the development of indicators and methods in identifying high-risk medicine, developing proofs of concept, and then, of course, also as a sort of proof of the pudding to test medicine quality and to see if the sort of the risk-based flagging tool actually leads to a correct assessment of those areas of drug policies that need to be prioritized. We would very much like to thank the great team at Pancasila University for again allowing us to participate in this project, and we look very much forward also to working with all the partners within both Pancasila and Imperial to work on this great project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Roland, for the opening remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been quite informed about the background of today's event. Now we are going to see a video that will briefly tell us about the STARmeds collaborating institution and the MOU signing that will be played by the technical team.
Affordable, good quality medicines are one of the core foundations of a strong health system. Compromised drug quality, cost and national budget constraints, particularly in low and middle income countries, can lead to an increase of substandard and falsified medicines, making medicines ineffective or worse, harmful to patients. Without universally agreed methods of measuring this problem, there is no way of tracking progress in ensuring that medicines made available through universal health coverage efforts are safe and effective. The systematic tracking of at-risk medicines project, or STARmeds for short, is funded by the UK National Institute for Health Research and brings together 3 collaborating partners: Imperial College London, Universitas Pancasila, and Erasmus University Rotterdam. Together, we will support countries to measure the impact of potential harmful medicines and plan effective action. Using readily available Indonesian data, the team will develop a method to improve the efficiency of surveillance systems. This will help the government save money by targeted testing of medicines most likely to be of poor quality. We will inform the World Health Organization of our methods and learnings, which can then be made available and applicable to other countries around the world. Together, we aim to contribute to universal health coverage for all, protecting people from the impacts of substandard and falsified medicines.
What a great video. This collaboration proves that in this globalization era, competition motivates us to be faster, but collaboration makes us stronger. It is now the time to collaborate. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to proceed to our next session, which is a presentation entitled Quality Medicine Study in Indonesia, an overview that will be presented by Professor Elizabeth Pisani and Dr. Yusi from Universitas Pancasila and Dr. Katarina Hogg from Imperial College London. And to all participants joining either on Zoom Cloud Meeting or on YouTube, if you have any questions to the presenters, please kindly type your question into the chat box or comment section at any time during the presentation. And due to the limited time, we will only choose 3 questions and address them at the end of the presentation. So to all the speakers, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. I see colleagues from all kinds of Indonesian institutions. That makes me very proud and happy. I'd like to introduce the project a bit, and Yusi and Katarina will also help to explain what it is that we're going to do. I'd like to thank the UK government and the Department of Health through the National Institutes of Health Research and the 33 million British taxpayers, of course, who are making this all possible. And we're very aware that this is public money, and we intend to try and spend it as best we can to answer a very important question. Now, this question goes back, if I can, to a report that was launched in November of 2017. Dr. Penny Lukito, who many of you will know as head of the Indonesian national regulator, BPOM, joined Dr. Tedros, the head of the WHO, to launch this report. And it drew attention to the importance of substandard and falsified medicines. And you've heard something about this from many of the previous speakers in the video. So medicines that don't meet quality standards or that are fake don't treat patients. They can sometimes even kill them. They allow resistant bugs to spread, so they contribute to antimicrobial resistance. They waste money for families and for budgets, and that's particularly important in countries like the UK, which has a National Health Service, and Indonesia, which has JKN, where a lot of medicine is funded by public budgets. So we really need to make sure that medicines are not wasting money. So these things are all very, very important. And yet, when you come to saying how big is the problem, well, this is what the WHO says. You know, the question's frustratingly difficult to answer. And then in the same report, well, how big is the impact of these things? Studies are virtually non-existent. Now, for those of you who do not speak fluent WHO, what this means is we have no idea. We really don't know how bad this problem is. Now, I can say that with some confidence because I was involved in writing these reports, and we really looked very, very carefully at all of the data internationally, and we found that no single country has actually got an estimate of the prevalence, the amount of substandard and falsified medicines and in its market, let alone the impact. So why is that? Well, it's partly because of the needle in the haystack problem. Where do you begin to look for these things? In the Indonesian market alone, there are over 13,000 individual products registered. If we look at public procurement, 2 years ago, the public procurement system bought 7.6 billion units of medicine. So some of those are going to be good, most of those are going to be good, a very small proportion will be bad. So where do we start to look for them? Now, as Professor Weber mentioned, I have a background, a history as an epidemiologist in HIV. And this made me think about HIV. And you're going to think, huh? Why is she talking about HIV now? We're talking about medicine quality. But actually, they're quite similar. Why? Because they're important threats to health. They're virtually invisible. They're quite rare in the population in most countries, or in the markets in most countries, but they are not evenly distributed through a population. So I had the privilege a very long time ago, nearly 20 years ago, of working with the Indonesian Ministry of Health, with Kemkes P2M and the Statistics Bureau, BPS, to try and strengthen the national surveillance system for HIV in Indonesia. And at the time, most of the surveillance was in pregnant women and in blood donors, which is a bit like taking a random sample of the population. And what that found was nothing, basically, because this is so rare, and most pregnant women are not at risk for HIV, because at that time, HIV was concentrated in well-known groups, and that is injection drug users, sex workers, gay men. So when we started to focus the surveillance system on those risk groups, you found that you had a much higher yield, a much higher level of positive tests, and we got a much better understanding of the epidemic. So we began to think, maybe you could use this same principle of risk-based surveillance for medicines. And we went to our colleagues at BPOM and said, what do you think of this idea? And ternyata, of course, BPOM, who are the experts in this, are way ahead of us. And they've been doing risk-based surveillance for quite a number of years now. And then we started talking with them about, okay, well, what are the groupings, the factors that actually are included in risk-based surveillance? And in the multi-country study that Prof. Roland mentioned, we found one very, very important factor that was not currently included in the risk-based surveillance, and those are market factors. So they're factors that relate to pricing, to the incentives to produce or to sell products in a given market. And the expert in pricing in our team is Ibu Yusi, so I'm going to turn over to Ibu Yusi now.
Thank you, Ibu Elizabeth. So as we know, since 2014, the Indonesian government has implemented universal health coverage, and there were significant reforms in the health sectors, including medicine procurement and a pricing policy. Procurement and pricing policy in Indonesia changed through the implementation of National Formulary and e-catalog that to be used in the e-purchasing for the healthcare under the universal health coverage. The medicine price in Indonesia is set through negotiation or tender process, and it has an impact on medicine price. Our study showed that medicine price in Indonesia tended to fall steeply. From this figure, we know overall 42% of all medicine fell in price by 50% or more. In other words, their price was better compared to before the implementation of universal health coverage. And we also observed there are increased price in medicines. Over a third of those that rose in price rose by less than 25%. And based on this evidence, we all know that the government has made a priority of bringing down medicines prices through the public procurement system. This slide is our current analysis of the current prices for a number of essential medicines sold in a catalog with the cheapest price in the market in Thailand, another Middle Asian country that aims to achieve universal health coverage too. From these figures, overall Indonesia gets better prices, which should be a source of pride for the government as achievement of the pricing policy implementations. But sometimes we have to think the prices perhaps a bit too good, or sometimes we can see it is too low. That raises question about how the Indonesian producer can produce quality products so cheaply. If we observe another side, we also have a few of medicines price very high. It is more than 3 times than Thai price. So it might be attractive to target for the falsified. So we have some cases of the falsified medicine or also substandard medicines, and will be described by Ibu Elizabeth again.
Thank you, Yusi. I think that the issue of falsification is particularly interesting right now with the rollout of the COVID vaccine. And I think that we're seeing cases of falsified vaccines even in the US with, you know, the FDA is supposed to be one of the strongest regulators, but in the online supply chain, they can't control that. We're seeing substandard production. In the neighboring Philippines, we've also got verified cases of falsified vaccines being injected. And in India, partly because of the effects of COVID, we've seen a rise in substandard production of many medicines. So these highlight some of the groupings that we now think could be used for sentinel surveillance for medicine. So in the same way that we had those behavioral groupings for HIV, we're thinking that we can use these sentinel groupings for risk-based surveillance for medicines. Now, some of these are already being used by BEPOM and some of them are additional. So for an example that we just saw from those press cuttings, internet purchases, particularly of things where there's a very, very high demand at the current time, either for medical reasons like COVID or for recreational reasons, for example, because something is used by addicts. So the reason that we want to try and increase, so on the basis of this surveillance, we'll then make very simple spreadsheet-based estimates of the overall prevalence of medicines in the market. The reason to do that is not because we just want to know, but also because we want to know the impact on people's health and on the economy and to inform policy. And I'll let Katarina tell you a bit more about those impact estimates.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. So really what fascinated me about this project is that we are faced with a problem that is truly unknown. Often we test a hypothesis in academic research, but with this, we really have no idea whether these indeed frightening numbers and figures that you see on the slide, whether these are true, whether the numbers actually, the real numbers are higher or the real numbers are lower, we don't know. So there's very little evidence, which makes this very exciting for me, this project. Now, also from an economic point of view, we know that the cost of post-market surveillance of medicines is very high. This begs the question, how much should countries actually invest into such regulatory systems? And in order to do that, we would need to do a cost effectiveness analysis of surveillance and regulation. And for that, we need solid estimates of the impact of falsified and substandard medicines. And we can distinguish really health impacts and economic impacts. And these are the ones that we will be attempting to estimate with this exciting project. Now, first, of course, we have the direct health impacts on patients due to increased morbidity and unfortunately mortality arising from adverse events, wrong dosage, wrong medication altogether taken. If the medication was meant to treat an infectious disease, we have the additional problem that it might increase transmission dynamics and that it will lead to secondary infections. So we will use the expertise that we can fall back on in the School of Public Health in infectious disease modeling to attempt and estimate these impacts for one specific disease, which is yet to be determined. We also have a problem, of course, of poor adherence and vaccine hesitancy if patients realize that the medication is not doing what it is supposed to do, and the problem of antimicrobial resistance that Elizabeth already mentioned. Now, this has the problem that health systems are burdened with patients who need additional treatment, prolonged treatment, potentially for conditions that have worsened. We have adverse impacts on work productivity of individuals who are not treated properly for the conditions that they have, with the adverse economic impacts on households. And then, which I think is a really very interesting aspect, is the pharmacoeconomic impacts. Elizabeth, if you please advance the slide. So really, there is uncertainty about the quality of medicines, clearly. It's very difficult for a purchaser of a medicine to determine what the quality of that product is. And we know if there's high uncertainty about the quality of a product, such as a used car, the same applies to medicines. We have the issue that there are adverse incentives for the producers of good and bad medicines, and it may lead to a downward spiral in quality and in prices. So what Jussi mentioned before about there being a downward pressure on prices might well be also that this market of lemons, like how economists call that, this downward spiral in quality occurs. And we certainly have the ambition to understand more about these pharmacoeconomic effects. Thank you.
Yes. Would you please to press down, Ibu Alice? So discussing about medicines, there are several responsible stakeholders related to the medicines in Indonesia. There are Badan POM, we call here Drug Regulatory Agency, responsible for pre-market registration and pre-post-market quality assurance. This is the main institution who are assure the quality of medicine in the market. The second one is Ministry of Health, responsible for setting a maximum selling price at selection medicine for the national formulary. And there are also National Procurement Agency or AKPP, responsible to manage procurement for the healthcare facilities under National Health Insurance. And then we have BPJS Kesehatan. It's very well known now because it is a national insurance agency, BPJS, bigger payers in the world now as a payer for the health system. However, beside the core stakeholder, our institution also have a significant role that might influence the quality of medicines. Therefore, we hope through this 3 years research project, we could collaborate to those stakeholders and provide the evidence related to the prevalence, estimations, and economic impact on medicine's quality. We do hope to build a strong collaboration between institutions on Pokja Estimasi Mutu Obat. We call it PEMO. And in English, it is Working Group on Medicine Quality. And I'm very happy today. Most of the institution in this logo, we are inviting and then they coming in this event. There's Badan POM, Kemkes, also other institutions. That is very positive for us, and then I am very happy to work with all of you in the future. And on behalf of our team, I would like to say thank you very much for coming. And we are looking forward to working with all of you in this area. And this is our team, and we have also Prof. Wahono as the senior advisor on the pharmaceutical policy, and Ibu Luki STARmeds as the former of the National Regulatory Agency as senior advisor for us in Indonesia. And others, we have a very strong team, and I'm happy they are very support to conduct this event today. Thank you so much, and I will give the time to the MC. Thank you.
What a very informative session. Thank you to all presenters. Now we are going to proceed to the Q&A session. So the technical team will show the chosen questions on the screen, and each presenter may directly read and answer the questions addressed to them.
Yeah, Ibu Yusi, would you like to answer the first question?
Yes. Yeah, we will conduct the research in 4 provinces in Jakarta, Medan, and also there is a team Maluku, and one in Tete. But except from the for province, actually we have also have an observation on Jayapura before this study was starting in Jayapura and Nusa Tenggara Timur. So we will compile all the research from the previous and our current study. And regarding the sampling of the medicine, we have we will combine the method of sampling with the risk-based method and a random sampling in Jakarta.
Thank you. May I perhaps try and answer the second question, which is a very interesting question. So the question I think you can all see is that in the opening remarks, it stated that the high price of medicines creates the opportunity for falsified medicines. But in Indonesia, as Ibu Yusi's presentation showed, prices have been falling very steeply. So how does that make a market for falsified medicines? So one of the things that is quite novel about this research is, you might remember I presented that WHO report at the beginning, which was the sort of start of thinking that led to this project. And in that report, they made no distinction between substandard and falsified. It was all just called S and F meds, like in one group. But when we started to look at the driving forces for substandard and falsified medicines, we found that they're actually quite different. That the forces that drive substandard medicines are very different from the forces that drive falsified medicines, or that create opportunities for falsified medicines. So that's why we're actually going to have sentinel groups that differentiate between products that are at high risk for falsification and products that are at high risk for substandard production. And I think Patri asked this question. It's absolutely correct that the downward price pressure actually increases the likelihood of substandard production or of degradation before products get to market. Why? Because when you're cutting costs as much as you possibly can, then sometimes it can compromise quality, not deliberately, although sometimes deliberately, but you can maybe buy a slightly cheaper grade of active ingredient, or you can make the packaging, instead of blister packaging, you'll change to strip packaging, and that will make it easier for things to deteriorate during the supply chain. So that downward pricing increases the likelihood of substandard production or of degradation. However, what it also does is it incentivizes healthcare facilities to push people outside of the normal public supply chain, right? So I can't, as a health provider, I can make money if I can sell you something that's not JKN, that's not on plan. So if I can sell you a more expensive medicine, then I make extra money. And that creates, if the client can't afford that expensive medicine, maybe they'll go and look for it on the internet, or maybe they'll go to a less formal or less regulated market, toko obat or a market stall, to try and get something that they can afford, because it's not available in the public system at a price they can afford. And that creates the opportunity for falsification. So we're making a distinction between those two risks, and we will have separate sentinel groups for those two risks. I hope that begins to answer the question. If not, please feel free to reply in the chat.
Can I maybe also add that actually this is not specific, of course, to the Indonesian context, but generally the market for pharmaceuticals, as we discussed before, the quality of medicines are very difficult to determine for patients. And that means that there will be that it will be difficult to distinguish between good quality and bad quality medicines. And in any market, that results to a pressure on the good quality producers to either make efforts to signal the quality of their product, or it requires intervention by a regulator to send these quality signals, which is done in many markets. So I think it's the interplay between supply and demand, and it's very complicated, and we don't quite know which is the cause and which is the effect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to answer the question number 3, and then maybe Katarina Elizabeth can add if there is some experience from other country relating the collaborations between the academician and with the regulator. I think we have to state now, when academician conduct a study, I think it should be a mutual collaboration between the regulator and also the academic. It is not being to evaluate the job of the regulator. It is sometimes to provide a data to make a better decision on the policy maker. So we are not a decision maker, but we can provide the evidence for the regulator to make a decision more better. And as we know, as a presentation from the Elizabeth Pisanis, medicine quality is a very hard to measure because the sample is very big. So with this study, with the very good funding, we hope we can build something and can give some contribution with our Indonesian regulatory. And we hope from this also we can improve the human resources with the capacity building program from our study. This is what is the benefit between academician and regulator collaboration. I think Imperial have very well-known collaboration between academician and also regulator. If you can add, Katerina, how is your experience in UK?
May I add one point to that also, because I should have mentioned it in the presentation and I didn't. And I think, Ibu Yusi, you mentioned it in passing in your answer to the first question. But and Katerina pointed out the importance of figuring out how much you should invest in surveillance, in estimation, how much to invest in regulation, and where you get the best bang for your buck, where you get the best return on that investment. And at the moment, in many countries, there's a big debate about what's the most effective form of post-market surveillance. So the WHO's member state mechanism, which is a body of member states which advises the WHO on substandard and falsified medicines, has a working group right now on risk-based surveillance. What's the most effective way? And one of the things that we'll be doing is directly comparing sentinel surveillance, the form of risk-based surveillance that we propose, which is basically elaborates on the risk-based surveillance that BEPOM is already doing. In one area, we'll compare that directly with random samples. So we'll be able to see whether risk-based surveillance actually gives you a better return on your money in terms of information about the market than a random sample. And I think that that's something that's useful for BEPOM, but BEPOM has better risk-based surveillance than many other countries. But I think it will also be a really important lesson for the rest of the world. So I think that it's not the first time that Indonesia will take the lead in developing methods that have been adopted as gold standards internationally. It happened also with HIV estimation, which was developed in Indonesia and then became the WHO gold standard. But we're hoping to be able to, with this work, make a benefit not just for BEPOM and Indonesian regulators and others in the Indonesian health community, so the Ministry of Health and others, but also for decision makers in other countries. Katerina, yes. I don't know if you'd like to add to that.
I don't have much to add, just that clearly economic theory suggests that there is that regulation is welfare improving because we prevent this downward spiral of quality and prices. But that, as Elizabeth and Yusi very clearly stated, the devil is in the detail, and we hope with this project to drill into these details. Thank you.
Maybe Prof. Roland, I would like you to give some experience regarding the question number 3. Maybe Erasmus have some experience collaborating with the regulator in the Netherlands, and then what is the benefit for them?
Yes, thank you. So I think one of the, and as you already mentioned, I think that in these kinds of projects, one of the most important things is to collaborate very closely with those in the administration to have a clear idea about what kind of instruments, what kinds of policies, what kinds of persons actually are leading there, and how you can attach to the kinds of issues that they are dealing with. And I think that is really, really important. And in such a complex market, it is you know, it is a very difficult question, and like Professor Weber already said in the beginning, this is a really difficult area to work in, and also because you're part of an international market, and the way that you can influence also the decisions in the pharmaceutical industry, etc., might be very difficult. And still, I think one of the very nice things of the STARmeds project is that the flagging tool that has been developed and that will be further developed, and the kind of data that you are getting will lead to some mechanisms that I think will actually be helpful. But this connection to the policymakers, that is really, if you talk about how can you contribute actually to you know, creating a better situation for meds quality, and that is really crucial.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is one question for Katarina in the chat room. I think about the vaccines. Can you
okay.
read? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, so clearly vaccine hesitancy is an enormous challenge, and it actually varies a lot by countries. We are here at the School of Public Health doing research on what is the impact of variations in vaccine hesitancy across countries on COVID transmission. What we see is that if there is doubt, particularly if there is doubt among political leadership about the efficacy of vaccines, that has a profound impact on the attitude of the population towards that. And we see that at the moment play out in real time, actually in the European countries. So that has an impact on vaccines hesitancy, but also on, of course, adherence to medication in general. So that these impacts, though, are very difficult to quantify, but we hope we at least can make a first step towards that with this project. Thank you.
Ibu Alice, do you have any?
No, I think that you're all reminding us of the very great challenge that we've set for ourselves. I mean, one of the ways, in answer to Ibu Luki's comment, that we will be potentially most useful, this collaboration will be potentially most useful to not just BEPOM, but also KEMKES, BPJS, is by our listening to them and what questions they have that we can help to answer. And so the creation of the PEMO, of the working group on medicine quality estimation, is really to create a forum, mostly for us to listen to all of those other policymakers and regulators, so that we can say, how can we help? You know, which questions are most important to you that we can help to answer? Obviously, we're academics. We have to stick with academic rigor and everything else. But we're very, very keen that this should be policy relevant. And I know that from the point of view of the UK Department of Health, which is funding this whole enterprise, and through NIHR, that it's a really, really core interest of theirs also, that research that the UK supports in other countries is driven by the interests of those countries, not by the interests of a bunch of researchers sitting in the UK or elsewhere. We're very, very conscious of that, and we really care about it. And so we really, really hope that for those of you who are representing other Indonesian institutions who've done us the honor of joining us today, we really hope that you'll be active participants in the PIMO, so that we can listen to you and really understand how we can best contribute.
Before I give the time to the MC, I would like to say thank you also with the here Prof. Agus from Ministry of Education. He is the coordinator of the private university in Jakarta area. So he is very keen to attend today because this is like a role model. Oftenly this kind of funding come to the public university, big university in Indonesia, but now private university in Jakarta also opportunities. So I think it can be a role for other university in Indonesia how to get the funding. And thank you very much for Agus for coming to attend this meeting. And thank you also for all the invitees and stakeholders coming for this meeting. I'm sorry if I cannot mention one by one. And we are very happy to work with you in the future in this area. So thank you once again. And then I give it the time to, because it's already the time. So Bu Elvira, you can close the sessions.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Pisani, Dr. Yuzi Anggraini, and Dr. Katarina Hock for delivering a very enlightening presentation. Unfortunately, our time is very limited, so we apologize to all the participants if your questions were not discussed. But if you notice, Dr. Yuni Anggraini and Dr. Elizabeth shared with us on her presentation the email address of STARmeds team. So you may rewatch today's events on Universitas Pancasila official YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the presentation today has inspired us ideas and discussions around the ways that we as related parties, researchers, students, medical practitioners, government, that we can help our country to have a quality medicines for better public health. So as we end this launch event, let us not forget that there are more things to do. There are more things to achieve because MOU signing and the launch event today are only the beginning. Finally, we would like to express our gratitude to everyone for being with us today, and special thanks to everyone who made today's event possible. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Hope to see you all next time. To Zoom participants, please stay a little bit as we will be having a photo session. Finally, thank you, everyone. Good evening from Indonesia.
I think we have take the screenshots, Ibu Elvira. So so we have, yeah, the technician. Pak Greg, maybe you can.
Okay, please everyone to open the camera. Give me 5. Yeah, for Pancasila. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And next page. 1, 2, 3. The last page.
Smile, everyone.
Keep smile. Open the masker. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Once again. Keep smile. 1, 2, 3. Finish. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate your coming along, and we look forward to working together over the next years. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Amit.